Hello, everybody, and welcome to my talk, The Bad Guys Win, Analysis of 10,000 Magecart Vulnerabilities. A little about myself. My name is Nethanel Gelernter, CEO and CTO at CyberPion. We protect the organization's hyper-connected attack surface from the perimeter to the direct and indirect supply chain. I'm security researcher, hacker, web application security, cloud security expert. I have PhD in computer science, hacks, research papers, CVEs, talks, etc. The agenda for this talk: background, the Magecart problem, some statistics. We then will dive into the core of the talk, which is about protection mechanisms and how the hackers relatively easily bypass them today, why the bad guys win and how they win. Then we will summarize the talk, and obviously when we talk about more than 10,000 Magecart vulnerabilities, we will allow organizations to test whether they are in the statistic. So let's start with some background about Magecart. Magecart is a web application security attack in which hackers steal information by running malicious script, JavaScript, in web applications. It is named after the infamous hacking group Magecart that launched the most famous Magecart attack against British Airways and some others, although this vector was used before. The famous Magecart attacks triggered new generation of anti-Magecart solutions, and we will analyze them. In this talk, when we say Magecart, we will refer to the most challenging and interesting variant of Magecart, in which the hackers attack third parties, sometimes fourth, fifth party. They compromise the script that is loaded from this third party, and then just from the third party, they serve malicious code to other applications that rely on this third party. From one vulnerable infrastructure of a vendor, it is possible, obviously, to affect many applications, many organizations. It could be done for stealing information, but potentially it is possible to do more than that. Before we dive into the Magecart diagram, let's go through the script inclusion diagram. So when a user surfs to app.com, the first thing, the browser sends an HTTP GET request to get app.com, maybe through the firewall of the web server, and it gets back HTML page. Once the HTML page is loaded, it is rendered by the browser, and the HTML page might include instructions to load additional code or other objects from third, fourth, fifth parties, and this is what is happening. The browser sends from the context of the application a request to load script. The script is loaded, the script can change the application, and the script potentially can send some data to the third party or to other parties. In a Magecart attack, it starts the same. The user wants to surf to app.com, the browser sends the HTTP request, gets the same HTML page from the web server, the app is loaded, same app, the same request for a third-party script is sent to the third party, but this time the hacker can reply with malicious code. The malicious code can change the app, but for bad, and just as information could be sent to the legit third party, now it could be sent either to the hacker or to the compromised third party. So Magecart traditionally is about stealing information. I would like to bring an example for a web page through which an abuse could achieve more than just stealing information. So let's go through this page. So this is an old one, no longer active, obviously. So if some time ago you search for downloading the Microsoft Edge browser application, you Google it, you follow the first link, and then you get this web page in which you can type your phone number or email and then you're gonna get a link to download. So obviously, it is possible, because this page was vulnerable to Magecart, it was possible to steal the phone number and the emails that are tied. But more than that, think about hackers getting the phone numbers and then just sending malicious links, so the users download malware to their computer. It is enough that somebody will download such a fake application to a mobile device that includes credentials to an organization. This could be the beginning of an APT attack. So that's one example. But in general, Magecart, from what we see, is classical digital supply chain attack. Mistake of one vendor allows reaching many organizations, and I would like to bring two examples. In the first one, a misconfiguration in marketing performance platform. In the US, we detected strong indications to the fact that this the misconfigured cloud instance of the vendor was abused, and it could affect many retailers that loaded scripts from that instance. We reported about this issue to one of the largest retailers in the US that was affected in one of its login pages. It was fixed immediately by this retailer, and the retailer also notified the vendor that quickly fixed the issue. But we know that many other retailers do not even know about this incident. They don't know that they were affected by it. A second example, even bigger one, a security misconfiguration in one of the 5 largest advertising agency networks, according to Wikipedia, allows to run code on many of their customers. And we talk about the largest brands in the world, most of the largest brands in some countries, global corporations, and really many others. Here we directly contacted the vendor. The vendor quickly fixed the issue, yet, as far as we know, the vendor has never reported about this security vulnerability to any of the many affected companies. So, what are the challenges about Magecart? It happens without anybody knowing about it in most of the cases. It happens outside the organization. As you could see from the few examples we brought, and we saw many examples like that, the third parties do not disclose vulnerabilities incidents to affected companies. If you remember the diagram, it looks the same from the server's perspective, so hackers can complete the Magecart attack without a single packet going through the organizational network. And what we are going to talk about is the fact that security solutions today are blind about it, including the ones that should be anti-Magecart. So some statistics, the data, in the title of the talk, we say 10,000 Magecart vulnerabilities. Actually, it is much more than that. So the source of the data is Cyberpunk's global monitoring system. We have a system that analyzes the entire internet, a little more than that, assets and the connections between them. We were able to detect Magecart vulnerabilities and to track their exploitation. In some of the cases, we took active steps and we hijacked servers, so we were able to see and analyze the server side of the attack to see what the hackers can see once they take over the servers of the third party. The trigger for the research, if you're interested, basically, we detected several Magecart vulnerabilities in our system, including several incidents of Magecart abused, resources, and we found that some of the assets that suffered from the issue were actually protected by anti-Magecart solutions. So it brought us to deeply dive into this problem and see why it happened, why the solution failed to catch the attacks. So to the numbers, we detected more than 30,000 vulnerable assets. We made efforts to disclose vulnerabilities, and yet it would be nice for me to say that we had partial success. In most of the cases, third parties haven't reported to affected organizations or replied to us. Organizations that were affected, we did not respond to emails. So the situation today is that organizations do not know that they are or were vulnerable to Magecart vulnerabilities. As of today, October the 8th, there are more than 15,000 unique, fully qualified domain names that are still vulnerable or abused, and new issues are still being found. Just today, this morning, we found 10 assets of a web application security company, one of the largest ones, that are vulnerable to Magecart. Let's talk about the popularity of the affected sites. So as of today, as I said, more than 15,000 unique, fully qualified domain names, domain or subdomains belong to 10,000 unique second-level domains or Apex domain, including very popular sites, main pages of newspapers, the most famous tech, retail, and other companies. More than 10,000, more than 1,000 are in the Alexa top 10,000, and more than 2,000 are in the Alexa top 1 million. We found that this is a cross-sector problem. So just to give an idea about the big names and the fact that it affects many sectors, we found that in the following sectors, at least one of the top 5, okay, and of course others, were affected. Banking, insurance, healthcare, retail, pharma, tech, media, news, both newspapers and mass media agencies, energy, industrials, airline, accounting, including the big 4 food, beverages companies, telecom, manufacturing, electronics, and some of the biggest names in the security sector. Governments, universities, global organizations, such as the Red Cross or similar ones, and some of the big companies are not only affected by third party, they are themselves the third party through which other organizations are vulnerable to Magecart, which is worse. Analyzing the pages that were vulnerable, we found that it is possible to steal credit card numbers, login, and personal information. Most sensitive business information, such as CRM information, we found several customized CRM pages, for example, customized Salesforce login pages that are vulnerable to Magecart, customer ticketing systems, web forms, and on the active side, we found, as I said, main pages of newspapers. So it is possible to change the headlines of the most popular media news sites. Just think about stock exchange manipulations that could be done. It is possible to change advertisements, steal revenues from online ad services. I demonstrated the download app, but we have many other examples. So it is possible to download and install malicious files when the Magecart is behind authentication. So it is possible to act on authenticated applications on behalf of authenticated users. And basically, we found in many cases that it is possible to start the penetration into the organizational network. The most important thing when we talk about Magecart, and the most important thing that is required to understand the big gap, is the threat model. And we strongly believe that both enterprises and some of the security solutions that aim to help enterprises fight Magecart kind of forgot about the threat model part. And when we talk about Magecart, we talk about the careful hacker. Professional hackers who are interested in earning money. They are not going to deface your site. They want to maximize their benefits. They want to stay under the radar, keep the attack unknown. They understand the web. They are not script kiddies. And therefore, they are careful as much as they can. On the other side, there are the enterprises. Okay, so many websites, many applications, distributedly managed, many teams. Some of their applications are managed by third parties, complex distributed applications, variety of websites and applications. So very difficult to act on all of them at once. And to the help of the enterprises come the anti-Magecart solutions. The most naive one, script monitoring, periodically load script and just check whether it has been manipulated. We will go through this one quickly. Client-side solutions, add a script to the pages you want to protect, and this script will fight the other injected scripts. And solutions that use browser native mechanisms, CSP, SRI, and combinations. General notes about the careful hacker, and that's very important. Just think about it when you consider solving the problem. Once the hackers, the careful, took over a third party, the hackers will not act recklessly. They have all the time and all the resources to detect the anti-Magecart solutions. Magecart is a client-side attack, so they can do it easily. They can study them carefully. We will discuss this. And for hackers that plan to earn millions of dollars from a Magecart attack, it is worth to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in launching a perfect attack that is undetected. Okay? So even before we talk about the specific anti-Magecart solutions, let's talk about something that the hackers can do. They can start in small, change the script gradually. At the beginning, they will add spaces, then unmeaningful changes, replace one line in equivalent another line, then changes that are felt, not exactly the same, but not malicious. And only then, if they see that nobody detects what they do, they can attack. Orthogonally, they can start not on all the users, but on specific IP addresses, potentially not from the organizational networks or just from the organizational network. So they can start in small and carefully increase the effect of the attack. They can be non-deterministic. They can change their behavior. And they can generally decrease detection chance by making noise. You will see that in most of the cases, the hackers can generate false positive alerts easily. And therefore, just think about it. You are a SOC team member, you get an alert about a script that got changed from one of your many security solutions. But in the last 2 weeks, you got 20 similar alerts that are basically false positive. Most of the SOC teams, most of the security teams will just ignore it. Okay, so let's now just dive into the specific solutions. Start with bypass script monitoring, the easiest, the simplest ones. So in this case, obviously the careful hacker will always operate a controlled machine service as usual before acting. The hacker has all the time to learn the traffic pattern, to identify the monitoring tool, to correlate the potential monitoring tools with the documentation of the vendors providing these scans. Potentially, the hacker can buy a demo of the product. The hacker can identify the sources of the request, whether it comes from the cloud, from specific subnets. And basically, the hackers can use the same techniques the enterprises use to avoid serving bots. The hackers can use the same techniques to avoid serving the monitoring solutions. Okay? And as I mentioned, we had the opportunity to analyze some server-side logs of protected sites, and you will never believe how easy it is to distinguish between the legit traffic and the monitoring one. The frequency, the subnets, the fact that they come from the cloud, most of them, and some of them are super nice, maybe after this talk no longer, but some of them just add to the user agent their name. Okay, just like that. So the hacker can simply check the user agent. Oh, that's vendor X. I'm gonna return a reply with the original script. Others, I will reply with the modified, malicious one. So that's about the script monitoring and the ease of bypassing it. The client side. In this family of solutions, there is a client-side script of the security vendor that is added to the pages of the applications of the website, and this script should detect bad behavior of other scripts or malicious scripts that are loaded from some blacklist or something. And by definition, this family of solutions cannot work against the careful hacker. Remember that client-side solutions could be carefully analyzed, and in the end, this is a fight between the fixed script of the security solution and the hacker that can simulate the attack and change its own script millions of times until he succeeds in bypassing the script of the security solution. More than that, we talk about many environments in which the attack can happen. Dozens of desktop and mobile browsers. Each of them is updated every few weeks, and different pages. Sometimes different pages could be different cases or different scenarios in which, I don't know, some bypass will work for the hacker. And the hackers can basically find the bottom line. The hackers can find the bypass and choose the vulnerable environment without being detected. So let's see how it happens, on the hacker side. So a real world situation is that the browser of the user sends the company.com, gets the HTML page, then once the page is rendered, the page triggers a request to load a script from the third party. When the hacker who compromised the third party wants to simulate the attack and make sure he can bypass, he only needs his own laptop and an HTTP proxy, potentially as a software on the laptop itself, yes? And the hacker will do the same. The hacker will load the page, will get the web page. Once the page is loaded, a request for the script will be sent. But then on the proxy side, on the proxy level, the response will be modified to the attack code. Then the hacker can carefully monitor what is happening on the client side, on the company side. If he sees that the solution somehow succeeds, in detecting the change, the hacker can simply block it. Okay, the hacker controls the environment, and the hacker can try this again and again and again and again until he succeeds. And once a change, successful change is done, and there is no reaction on the client-side solution, then the hacker can run the same attack on the real world directly from the compromised third party. But now the hacker knows that the client-side solution will not be able to detect it. Notice that in each of the steps, none of the situations are indistinguishable from the perspective of both the monitoring tool and the company. So this is the real world. That's the simulation until success. That's the success, and that's the actual attack. And you can see on both the company server and the monitoring tool, it looks the same. They cannot detect anything. Other disadvantages of client-side solutions, there is performance effect, there might be performance effect. Let's be accurate. Deployment is required, so there's gonna be scale issue. We're gonna solve the script problem by adding another script. So based on other cases in security, we know that it might cause the same other problems or the same problem, because just take the XSS as an example, anti-XSS solutions that kind of change HTTP responses, and by that triggered cross-site scripting attacks. Okay, potentially it can happen here as well. To summarize, we found Magecart vulnerabilities in organizations that are protected that way. We were able to use the methodology we demonstrated to reproduce the attacks on protected organizations and to document exfiltration of data. We haven't encountered a client-side solution that successfully stopped our Magecart attack effort. And in all the cases, we succeeded to exfiltrate the data, also, not to the compromised third party, but to other new parties. Obviously, we can't say with 100% confidence that none of the solutions detect what we did. We believe they didn't because we didn't see any change, but potentially, and it is important to say, there could be something that we missed and they somehow found. What we can be 100% sure is that we succeeded in running the code. The third type of solution is using browser native mechanisms, CSP, content security policy, whitelisting, instructing the browser to whitelist the sources from which scripts could be loaded, or limiting the origins to which AJAX requests or others could be sent. About whitelisting, we all know that the CSP should be used carefully, usually could be bypassed. The second part of limiting the target could be bypassed easily. A later mechanism that was added is SRI. SRI is basically adding integrity check by cryptographic hash. And then if the script doesn't match the hash, the browser will not execute the script. Okay, so about Magecart and these solutions. So CSP is almost irrelevant when it comes to compromised third party. Okay, the third party, the compromised third party is whitelisted. Yesterday it was okay, today it is bad. CSP is not going to help here. About exfiltrating the data, hackers can send the data to the compromised third party, which is whitelisted, or, as I said, could exfiltrate the data without AJAX or either via DNS tricks or others. SRI could have been a challenge, but it is very difficult to deploy it in scale. It is almost impossible to deploy SRI on dynamic scripts. And remember also that legit scripts change all the time. So we haven't seen a wide deployment of SRI. So how do enterprises can use the browser native mechanisms? The first option will be manual. And this option could be done for a minimal fraction of the organization's apps or sites. But again, based on researches that were done in the past, usually it could be bypassed, at least for some pages. The second and more interesting for this talk is the semi-automated tools that usually work with the following flow. Find the current use of the script by using the CSP report-only mode, or the scripts themselves will collect information and analyze the current behavior, then define a policy that will prevent the use of new sources or behavior, and then move to the block mode. Okay? So this mechanism could be done to a larger fraction of the organization, but yet for enterprises that we analyze, they have 6,000 sites applications, web accessible ones, and Magecart was deployed on anti-Magecart solutions like that were deployed on 10. Okay, so the scale problem is still here. When we talk about CSP, so yes, the solution, the policies still could be bypassed. The challenges, so again, cannot be deployed strictly in scale. We found that in protected apps or sites, not all the pages use SRI and CSP. Example, you can find applications in which in one page there is a script. It is protected by SRI, and a second page, the same script without SRI. Okay, just as an example. And now let's talk about some new techniques to bypass each of the attacks. So the first attack is the trusted source injection, TSI attack. And this attack exploits the use of CSP or client-based scripts, solutions is done by tool security solutions. We do not exploit the implementation and the design of CSP. And the idea would be to manipulate the tools during the learning phase to whitelist hacker-controlled origins. So the attack will work as follows. So inspect the target website and detect the learning phase of the tool. This could be done easily because there is an evidence for that on the client side. Either CSP report header or a new script of a known anti-Magecart vendor. Then, once the learning phase begins, start manipulating it by start running the page, but manipulate it with on the proxy level, and kind of add new sources to the manipulated pages. Preferably run this from many IPs many times, and remember that because there could be many environments, for example, applications can act on IP-based or depending on whether users are authenticated or not, anti-Magecart solutions will not be able to detect that there is something wrong here. The hackers will continue the manipulation until the learning phase is over. When in CSP-based solutions, it is easy to see that it is over and that the attack is successful. You just see your origins whitelisted. In others, it depends on the implementation of the solution. Another attack that bypasses all the attacks we mentioned is the scriptless Magecart attack. The idea here is basically to avoid changing the script itself by changing other resources, potentially fifth parties, that the script is affected by them. The most common one, fourth party to which AJAX requests is sent and the third party script is affected by. So for example, if the third party script evals parse or row response from fourth party, okay? An example for some statistics from a scriptlet Magecart attack that we were able to launch and analyze again from the server side. So we talk about common fourth party that was Ajaxed. We were able to take over the fourth party, and we were able to see that 15 Alexa top 10,000 sites and many others are running scripts, third-party script that eval the HTTP response that they Ajax, from our fourth party. Most of them were in this case media and news media news and retail sites. And in 3 hours, we were able to see 500,000 requests from more than 200,000 unique IPs. Many of them from Android applications, some of them from vulnerable browsers. So we could even do more than just attacking the application, but we could attack potentially the machines themselves. And yes, we were able to manipulate the fourth party and see that actually a code is being run on the sites. So yes, to summarize, the anti-Magecart solutions, the enterprise versus the hackers, we see scalability problems. Solutions are either not scalable, in terms of sites and applications, or not to all the pages on the same site. None of the attacks can catch the scriptless variant or similar ones. Hackers can generate false positive in many of the cases. If the attack, the attack in some of the cases in the script monitoring cannot work, cannot catch targeted attacks. Some of the attacks might pose performance overhead or worse than that, security risk. And in all of them, based on what we saw, the bad guys win. The enterprise just lose to the hackers. The hackers, to be more accurate, the hackers can't lose. So based on our analysis, we believe that most Magecart attacks are completed without being detected. Organizations only later find their data sold or exploited. And maybe they will be able to detect what is the source of the breach. We found that script vendors do not report to their customers, to the affected companies. That's why the awareness is so low. And in the bottom line, the bad guys win. What could be done? We believe that the best option is yet the browser native mechanisms, but they should be used carefully, manually, by the people who know the best the application. They will be able to detect when something is manipulated. They know what are the third parties. We call to the browser vendors, provide us with more tools to protect ourselves. And for sure, a different approach is required. You can be sure that the amazing findings here and the findings that we still get every day triggered more research. On our side, we already developed something, and I invite you to follow myself and Cyberpunk on LinkedIn. Hopefully, we now allow everybody to check whether they are affected, and we plan to publish more information about the many cases we detected. So stay tuned. If you want to check whether your organization is in the statistic, we developed a site, simple app. We don't send the sensitive data. We don't keep it, on this public server. But this page will tell you whether your organization is affected, was affected, still affected, and you will be able then to get more details. And yes, thank you very, very much. And I'm available. Connect via LinkedIn, and you're welcome, to ask questions, email, or any other way. Thank you.